All right, guys, back working through progressions. Again, when we're using progressions, where do the progressions direct my time, my attention, my eyeballs, and my teaching points overall? So we're gonna use the Sumo Deadlift High Pull. So again, Sumo Deadlift High Pull, very similar progression to the push press. So we've got a Sumo Deadlift Shrug slow, a Sumo Deadlift Shrug fast, and then the full movement. So if I'm just doing the Sumo Deadlift, and let's assume we've already taught Pat his stance and grip, but stance should be outside the squat. Hands should be inside of the legs. There's a lot of variation there. But Pat knows where to get set up here, so we're gonna skip through that portion. In this portion of the Sumo Deadlift, I'm looking for deadlift mechanics. Where's the shoulder relative to the barbell? Does that bar move in a straight line as he stands it up and deadlift? When I've got that, the only thing I might layer in on top of that as I'm working through just the deadlift portion is that active shoulder, making sure that Pat is like pressing that bar back towards his shins or back towards his thighs as he stands up. So again, when I'm using the progression, I'm gonna tell my athletes what it is that I want them to do. So I'm going to adjust their start position. The focus point I'm gonna give them here is probably what they should be doing with the barbell. So if in that bottom position, say, hey Pat, what I want you to do is make sure you pull that bar back against your shin. Good. If he had something that needed to be adjusted here at the shoulder or at the hip, I'm just gonna make that adjustment for him. So if he had his hips too high, go to the high position, I would just say, hey Pat, drop your hips a little bit, right there, boom. I'm not gonna teach that, I'm just gonna tell him where to go. Once I'm good with the setup and the deadlift, now I'm gonna transition to the deadlift plus the shrug, but remember, this is done slowly. This is primarily done so that we can make sure that the sequence is intact, meaning it should be a deadlift, and then it should be a shrug. All of that should be done with straight arms. Ready and go. Good, at this point, that's the speed that I want that done at. It's much easier to put speed on something than it is to take it off, so I want to make sure that it happens 1 and then 2. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna speed this up. Now, when I speed this up, my primary focus now shifts just a little bit. I'm probably gonna focus a little bit more on the elbow because we'll typically see an early arm pull in the Sumo Deadlift High Pull. So I'm gonna emphasize that. And I'm gonna say, hey, we're gonna make sure that we speed this up. So it'll be a deadlift and shrug done fast, focused on keeping the elbow locked out as hard as possible. So I have him back down in the setup. Good, ready and go. Good. That speed combined with the straight arm is this core to extremity principle, meaning we're making sure that the big mover of the hip does most of the work here and then the shoulders will follow on from there. Once I've got that portion, when I get to the full movement, all of what we've already covered, plus I'm probably just gonna check that, that high position at the top. So go to your top position where the bar's at the top. I'm gonna check elbow position here real quick. So what I've got now is I know I'm probably gonna have good handoff from the hips to the shoulders to the hands if we've done this progression correctly. I wanna make sure that we check this top position. Where are the elbows positions at the top? Go ahead and go back down. So at this point, we're in the full movement. I know that the sequence should largely be intact because we hammered it in the deadlift shrug slow, fast, or deadlift shrug fast. Now I wanna see the full movement. Ready and go. Good, and relax. So again, when you're running through the progressions in the deadlift, I'm looking to make sure that we have active shoulders and the relationship of shoulder, hip, barbell stays intact. When I go to the shrug, I'm looking for sequence. When I go to the shrug fast, sequence plus straight arms to emphasize core to extremity. And then when I get to the full movement, I'm putting all of those together. And then the last thing I have to make sure is I've still got that straight bar path with an appropriate receiving position or top position, making sure that the elbows are high and outside. So as you're working through the progressions, you wanna make sure that in your coach's notes that as you're working through that, why am I doing this point of the progression? I'm gonna tell my athletes that's what I want them to focus on. That's where my eyeballs are gonna go, and those are the things that I'm gonna cue. And that way you don't have to hop around with a bunch of different points of performance, because I know that, hey, if I'm looking for elbow position or something like that, that's in step 3. Staying on task is really hard as a newer coach. This will help you do that. So try that out, you'll be much more efficient.
Thank you for watching, and if you found that helpful and you want more of this kind of content, we have literally hundreds of videos just like this, from practical tips and tricks to theory to everything in between, all in the knowledge. And if you want to learn from me directly and our cohort of level 4 staff members, then we also have the Knowledge Pro, which we do weekly calls and live interaction and homework and everything else in between. If you want any more information or would like to have a free trial of the knowledge, please click the link in the description below and get after it.